Here is one of the major reasons I cannot deconvert from Christianity. First-hand account stories like this.
I was holding a revival meeting in Louisiana in one of the big rodeo arenas. God was giving us a great revival. We came to the last service of that meeting, and I was preaching the sermon that I'm preaching tonight. When I gave the invitation, over 400 people walked down the aisle and made a profession of faith. Up in the right side of that stadium, on the last row of seats, 3 businessmen mocked all the time I preached. And when we gave the invitation, I can still hear them saying, "There goes your poker buddy. There goes your girlfriend." I can still hear them say, "We'll have them back as soon as this evangelist leaves town." They cursed the meeting. They mocked at the work of the Holy Spirit. When I had finished giving the invitation, I said, "I don't know who you 3 gentlemen are, but I said, I want to tell you and give you a message from God. All 3 of you have stepped over God's deadline, and God signed your death warrant." They laughed me to scorn. That was about 10:30 Sunday evening. At 6 o'clock the next morning, one of those businessmen put the key in the door of his business to unlock the door and dropped dead in the street. About 11 o'clock that day, the second businessman started to cross the street to a restaurant to have lunch and fell dead in the middle of the street. At 5 o'clock that afternoon, the third one was sitting with his secretary in his office, and he said, "My 2 buddies are in hell, and you see that sun pointing out the window." He said, "Before it goes down tonight, I'll join them in hell," and pitched out of that seat, dead and in hell.
If Jesus is not real, because these 3 businessmen definitely did not believe Jesus the night before when they were mocking the revival, how did he have how do you account for the inner knowledge he had that he was going to die? And then right after that, right after he said he was going to die before that sunset, how did he die? What is his inner knowledge? And then he died. Kind of like the man that's about to board a flight. And he has an inner compulsion. Don't get on this plane. Don't get on this plane. This inner compulsion drags him from going onto the plane. And the plane takes off and 30 minutes later crashes. It's the same thing. But how come this only happens in Christianity? How come there is nowhere you will never... I will give you $1,000 if you can find a story in Hinduism, Mormonism, Islam, where someone was asked to convert to their faith, and they refused to convert to their faith, and they mocked it and died within a reasonable amount of time. There's another version to the story. Hold on. So help me God, I curse God if I do not get my hair back and become a good-looking guy. I kind of want to die if I cannot be a good-looking guy. Them hot chicks. Let's find his telling the story in another place.
Never would you make me believe it. I was conducting a revival, a associational-wide revival sponsored by the 27 Baptist churches in that parish in Louisiana. You know, in Louisiana, they do not have counties like we have in North Carolina. They have parishes. And this was a parish-wide revival. And we had come to the last night of the meeting, and I was preaching this sermon, and the meeting was being held in the rodeo arena. And as I preached, on the last tier of seats, over to my right, on the last row top seats, were 3 men that I'd never seen before. And they had laughed and made fun. Now, preacher, it has never bothered me when a little baby starts crying, the mother gets up and walks out, that don't bother me. But under God, I cannot preach if I see two young people laughing. I cannot preach if I see anybody mocking. It just somehow or another takes it away from me. 3 times. I stopped. And I said the last time, if you men don't want to hear me preach, a lot of these people have come from miles to be here tonight, and they do, would you just get up and walk out of the arena? One of them said, if you think you're man enough to come up here and put us out, you just come up here. And I prayed a prayer. Never have prayed before, never have prayed since. I said, dear Jesus, let me backslide for 15 minutes. And I promise you, Lord, if you'll let me backslide for 15 minutes, I'll go up there and beat the devil out of all 3 of them. And God said, I didn't call you to fight, I called you to preach. He said, you turn them over to me. And I did. And they continued to mock all the way through the sermon. We had over 400 people to walk down that aisle that night and give their hearts to Jesus Christ. I fully intended to never show them enough attention to address them again. But just as I was ready to pronounce the benediction, my arm came up. Preacher, did anything ever come out that you hadn't planned to say? That you couldn't help but say it? Has that ever happened to you, brother? How many of you preachers here have ever had something just come out that you didn't have in your notes and it just came out? Yes, every preacher, every God-called preacher has. And my arm just came out and I said, I do not know who you 3 gentlemen are. But all 3 of you stepped over God's deadline, God signed your death warrant, and God's going to kill all 3 of you. That was about 10:15 Sunday night. At 8 o'clock the next morning, I didn't know who these men were. They were 3 businessmen. One of them put the key in the door of his office on Main Street, Ringo, Louisiana, and dropped dead. At 11:30, the second man started across the street to a little restaurant to have his lunch from his office, and a lady was driving up the street and almost ran over him. She said he just walking along normal, he had flat on his face, and died right there in the street. At 5:30 that afternoon, the third man was sitting in his office, and he said to his secretary, my 2 friends are in hell, and before the sun goes down, I'll join them. And pitched out at their feet a corpse.
That Jesus has got to be real, but what's got the cognitive dissonance flaming up in me, if there's no Moses, if there's no Adam and Eve, why don't I have a good reason to doubt whether Jesus is real? Because you remember, he saw Moses and Elijah on the Mount of Transfiguration. Who were they if there was no Moses? But yet, listen to these stories. You will find in no other religion has this happened. The people who rejected becoming converted in Hinduism, converting to Hinduism, Islam, Mormonism, or even Christianity. Christianity seems to address the need of men to fix a problem that is not an imaginary problem. Everybody knows we all know mankind seems to be afflicted with the disease of wanting to do bad things and not always wanting to do good things. Mankind seems to have a disease that we're all going to die. None of us want to die. And Christianity addresses these concerns almost perfectly. Perfectly. I say with the exception of people going to hell forever and ever and ever, not being able to be saved once they go to hell. That's the only flaw I see in Jesus and Christianity. Otherwise, Christianity meets every deepest need of mankind. And could it be that when people reject this, what they see that is this ultimate cure, a depression settles on them that puts them in a state of mind that can kill them. Remember, there are documented cases of people being killed by voodoo beliefs, voodoo deaths. Google it, and Matt Little Honey, and enlarge your brain and enlarge your knowledge, which is sorely lacking in the areas of expertise outside atheism and science. Freddie Gage, the evangelist Freddie Gage, wrote a book called All My Friends Are Dead. People who begged to be saved. Many people who begged to get saved. All of them refused, all of them died. One of them was dying. He was screaming, "Somebody kill me, somebody kill me. No, no, please don't let me die. Please don't let me die. Please don't let me die. I'm on fire. Somebody kill me." He wanted to die, but he didn't want to die. It was as if he was transmigrating from this world into the spirit world, and he wanted to die in the spirit world because he was in hell, but he did not want to die in this world, because if he died in this world, he fully entered the spirit world where he was burning and on fire. You and I will give you $1,000 if you can find any other religion where this happened to a person. In Hinduism, Islam, Mormonism, yes.
It's 5 o'clock.
Okay. It's actually 4:52.
Not by that clock out here.
Oh,
So
give me a
what's the
second.
difference between 8 minutes? You just
Oh,
don't
okay.
stay here?
No, I'm coming. I'm getting ready.
Right.
Give me 3 minutes. But if there's no...
I want to check air your tires before you go.
Oh, yes, sir. But if there is no Moses, could it be possible that Jesus is real, but the stories of Moses and the Old Testament were allegories until the ultimate truth came down to earth in the person of Jesus Christ? But if Jesus is not real, you cannot just blow these stories off. January the 1st, I came on. Jimmy Snow said, "Chris, be encouraged. These stories never happened." His first, "Hey, Jimmy Snow, what?" And Matt Dillahunty, "What the hell do you think about if I say you were never saved, Matt Dillahunty, because had you been truly saved, you would never have deconverted, no Scotsman fallacy." And yet, you're doing the same fucking double standard, trying to blow these stories off. Because these stories are true. This is the first-hand fucking account. So what if Jesus is not real? Explain to me scientifically what the fuck is happening. Until you can do that, I for one am content to believe Jesus is real. God killed these men, and they're burning in hell. Aaron Ra, Matt Dillahunty, maybe you're not smart enough, because maybe God is real, and these stories scare the hell out of you. So people like Jimmy Snow just say they never happened. They did happen, Jimmy Snow. That did happen, bitch. Don't you dare pull a double standard on me and say those stories didn't happen. When if I say, "Oh, Matt Dillahunty was never saved because he had been saved, even never had even converted," that's a double standard, and you know it, you atheist bitch. And I'm pissed off. You fucking bitch.